Hello and welcome to My Retro Watches. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike and this video is all about the disassembly of the 6119C Seiko movement. It's a bit of catching up really. This is a video that's long overdue. It was about a year ago that I actually filmed the assembly videos of a 6119, but for some reason I didn't do the dismantling video. So here we are in front of us. I've got actually, I'm trying to think now, this was my second ever watch restoration, and this was before I could do movements. And I bought this, it was a bit of a wreck, and I repolished the case, did all the refinishing on it, cleaned the crystal, had to source a new bracelet for it as well actually, which was another story entirely. And the thing's always ran, but it's never ran too well. It's usually quite slow to start, so it's desperate for a service. So I thought I'd use this one as a great candidate. Also because it's got some other features that I'll show you very shortly that a lot of people ask me in the group, how to take certain case backs off and then how to actually release the crown, because it's pretty unique on these. I only see them on certain Seikos. So we'll start with that. But before we start, what I do need to say really is what tools we're going to use. So we will need at some point a movement holder. This is a version 4040. You might be able to see it on there. You'll need either a loop or a visor. I use a visor, generally speaking, for magnification because it keeps your hands free. We'll need some tweezers. I've got a couple of pairs of tweezers here. A spring bar tool. This is a version one I've got here as well. It's got a number on it somewhere and it's upside down. And then we need some screwdrivers. I've got various screwdrivers here. These are A&F screwdrivers for those who want to know what make I'm using. You're going to need maybe a bit of Rodico, and maybe we need some pegwood. Now all of this, all of the kit that you can see, that I've basically got some Amazon affiliate links on my website, and you can, if you're new to this and you want to try it for the first time and you want to buy some tools, you can hit my website. Every tool I've got listed on there is stuff that I either use or I'd recommend to use, and it's you're buying through Amazon, you're not buying through me. I'm not selling anything. It's just a way to help you guys who want to start out. I do get a small kickback from that, which is nice, but it's not earth-shattering by any stretch. I've really done it just to sort of give you guys a leg up, because I didn't get a leg up. I had to go out and find the tools, and a lot of the times I bought twice because I bought crap to start with, and it would fall to bits or the screwdriver ends wouldn't work properly. So I've learned, and I want to just sort of ease the pain for anybody who wants to get into this. So with that said, we'll start by getting the watch movement out of the case. Okay, so to remove the movement from the watch, we first of all got to get the case back off, and this is the case back I'm talking about. So it isn't all that obvious how to get in there compared to normal Seiko that has a screw back like that. You can see the little lugs there. So first of all, we have to remove the bracelet. Like so. Now these things can be pretty stiff, so what we're looking for is these two holes here, and then they have some others here, and there's like a little spring clip in there which you've got to try and release. These ends are usually quite easy, so I use the spring bar tool with a pointy end, and I'm just going to put that in there. I'm pushing down with this finger on the crystal a bit. The crystal is acrylic on here. There we are, you can hear it click. So that end is out, and usually it just pulls out. There we go. And so there's the springs, as you can see, but hold it in. Now on this particular watch, the crystal is on the top on a little seal. Now a year ago or so when I did this, or when I restored it, actually, I'm trying to think, it'd be 2 years now. I didn't touch the movement, didn't even take it out, but I cleaned all the gunk out of here. I've got some photos somewhere, so I might put them on at the end perhaps. But what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take the crystal off like so. Just peels off, and need to remove the seal or the gasket. Now the gaskets, I'm quite fortunate because I've got a spare one of these, a new one, but if they've been on a watch for a long time like this one has, they have a tendency to, once you get them off, to stretch, certainly if you try and pull them off. So as you can see here, all I'm trying to do is gently go around it with my screwdriver just to release the, it's actually trying to take everything else with it. There we are. So what I don't want to do there is pull it. Excuse me a minute while I see what I'm trying to do. And trust me, this you might think, well, this is a bit silly, but I've done this many a time where I've pulled them off and then I can't find a replacement and it's stretched and it's no good. And then you have a dilemma. Certainly on a shaped one, if it's circular, then obviously it's fine. So we remove the gasket like so. Now, before I get to the movement, what I want to do is remove the hands. And I know I talked about what tools I was going to use. I forgot to mention I need a hand pulling tool. And to do that, first of all, I'm going to pull the crown and I'm going to turn the hands to somewhere. Actually, it looks like the second hand is, no, I thought the second hand had stopped then. Right. So I've got a little shim here. Now you can buy these, you don't have to buy the Persian one like I've got. You can buy these for not a lot of money at all. It's just been hampered a little bit by the other bits on the dial. And then just going to get my hand pulling tool and fix it first because it's come apart. Excuse me, but my camera is in the way. Okay, second hand. I really can't see what I'm doing. I'm trying to do it through the camera, which isn't good. Okay, just one moment. Sorry, I had to do that off camera there. I could see it then. So hands are off and safe. So how do we get to the movement? We need to release the crown in order to get this one out. So you have to pull the crown right out, and hopefully, if it's not fallen off, what we're looking for is this little hole here. This is pretty unique again to some of the Seikos. They have this feature on some of them, and it's not always obvious. And in there's a little lever that when you push it down, it'll release the crown. But what tends to happen, or what I've had before, is the lever is either missing completely or it's actually come out, and then that's a whole new problem. So what I want to try and do, again, I can't see very well. There we go. So I've pushed down again with my spring bar tool, pointy end, and I've pulled the crown. So we're lucky on this one, it has come out fine. I'll do a little trick here, turn my mat upside down. There we have it. Now I'm doing this in bare fingers. It's probably not the best practice. However, I am taking it apart to clean. So when I rebuild it, I always wear finger cuts. And this is the first time for me seeing inside here in the case back, and I like to look for surface marks to see if it's ever been serviced in its life. And be honest with you, I can't see any at all, which is a testament really that this thing is still running, and yet it was made in 1975, March of 1975 actually. That's quite something, isn't it, really? Next thing to do is to remove the dial. So to remove the dial on this one, I've just had to double check it because sometimes they are different. But on this particular one, now look, what's just fallen out. That there is the crown release. So you can see how easy that can come out of the movement over the years of usage, and then if that's come out, trying to get it off or trying to get the movement out, it's really difficult because you have to try and prise the dial off to get to the workings and go in dial side basically, which is not easy. However, I have done that in the past. So I'll remove that and we'll get back onto removing the dial, which has got dial screws. So there's always two of these. Here's one, and all I'm going to do is loosen it. Whatever you do, don't take it out completely because they're really difficult to get back in. And then we're going to turn it round. We're going to find the other one, which is there. And loosen that off. And the dial comes straight off with its little plastic surround there. So keep the dial somewhere very, very safe. Before we start doing anything else, good practice now, certainly if you're going to use an ultrasonic cleaner to clean the parts, is to tighten those screws back up. Because if you don't, there's a good chance that they'll vibrate loose in cleaning, and you'll either lose them because you won't have noticed, or when you do, trying to get them back in there, in that little hole, it's really difficult because you've got to hold the movement up like this somehow, balance it in with a pair of tweezers and screw it. So we'll just nip that one up like so as well. So now you can see the calendar works, which is what I stripped down first. But before I strip that down, the one bit I want to take off is the counterweight, and I also want to now get rid of my cushion and bring in the movement holder. So I'm just going to rest that in there while we take the weight off, or the rotor as we also call it. Okay, rotor's off, and in safe I'm actually using a little tray that I've mentioned before on some of my other videos. It's got little compartments in it, and you can keep all your parts safe in there and in order. So we'll turn it back over to the calendar works, and I'll try and see if we can get a bit closer so you guys can see what I'm trying to do here. Right, now then, there's a little brass ring on there. I call it the C ring, and that's got to come up first, and that just needs to be prized very carefully. These, if you prize too much, as you can just see there, it pops up. If you're trying it for the first time, again, just be really careful because they're easily lost. I'm going to use a bit of Rodico for a small part like that, so I can put it away nice and safe. Okay, and the calendar wheel will now just lift off, and there's the little star gear on the bottom. Okay, so now we're looking inside. What I've said in all my other videos, and I'll say it in this one as well, if you're attempting to take a watch apart, take a photo literally of every single bit you take off as you do it, and that way you've got a really good record of the sequence you took things off, but more importantly where the things go at the same time. So what we've got to remove now before we can do anything else is this here, which is a guard. And it's got, I think, 4 screws. It looks like it's got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But that one there is actually for this little plate, as you'll find out when we're inside. So I'll remove those screws and we'll take the plate off. I've just got to try and see if I can get myself focused here with my visor. I tend to remove 1 screw at a time. Sorry, I just knocked the camera there, didn't I? Remove 1 screw at a time. That way, if you're going to suddenly knock it, you've only lost 1 screw and not all of them. Alright, I'm really having difficulty today seeing what I'm trying to do. So I do apologise. No, that one's been a little bit difficult. There. And the last one. Typically the movement holder wants to come away. Right, I think I need a new end in my screwdriver. I think it's lost its ends. Trying to get that into focus, if it will. Yeah, it looks a bit blunt. So I'll change that in a moment. So the date guard just lifts off like so. Again, put it somewhere safe. Those screws in the date guard are about the smallest screws you're going to find in this particular movement. So what we're looking at now is the calendar works. We need to remove the date wheel. And the date wheel has this little click here, this little spring. This is the only type of spring that you'll find in this particular movement. Everything else is fairly straightforward. So to remove this, we just need to release the pressure on it a little bit. And you can do that a number of ways. I'm just trying to think the best way. Well, for a start, the date wheel has just come off, so that's fine. So we'll move that out of the way. And then this we'll just lever off its pin, and it's decided to have a ping moment. So there it is. It rests on a little post just here. Okay, right, I'm just going to change the end of my screwdriver and then we'll continue. Right, okay, I've changed the end. I've now got a brand new one, which is going to be a lot sharper and a lot better, certainly on camera. So what we got here is what we call the keyless works, and this is all the mechanism that controls the stem and the crown. So when you want to change the time and when you want to do a quick change on the date or the day, because this particular watch has both. We have here, this is a little lever. Now it's not attached to anything, it's just resting on a post. that actually interacts with the day wheel star, and that's what the quick set moves. So when you push the crayon in, it'll interact with all the spring mechanism here and push that all the way out. It's like in an arc, it nudges it basically. So we remove this one by just pulling it off. Again, put it somewhere safe. What you've also got here is the hour wheel it's showing, and this is basically the day wheel finger, and then somewhere else is it's just here is the date wheel. So as it's operating in normal time and it gets to 12 o'clock or midnight, it's this one and this one, it interacts with the day and the date wheel to change them. The quick set function is completely separate, doesn't operate on the same mechanism, if you like, as to when it's just changing the day and the date on its own. So it's important to remember the position of these. Doesn't matter where it is in context of, you know, these bits can be all the way around there, but it's having this post here in between those two, because if you don't put it on like that, then it doesn't change correctly. They're also made out of plastic or some sort of nylon, so they're quite brittle. This is the intermediate wheel, and that's quite small as well. So we'll take all these off in a moment. First of all, I'm going to remove the keyless works. So we start here by the I'm trying to think what part we call this. I'd like to think it's the quick set spring, but of course it's not. It's going to come to me in a moment. As you can see, I've planned this video very carefully. My goodness, those screws are really tight. Right, there we go. That's one. So like I say, in a lot of these, the camera is always hampering me, and that's no exception tonight. For some reason, it's hampering me more than usual. So forgive me if you think I'm fumbling a little bit. It's not my intention. But wow, obviously these are factory tight, and that is tight, that really is. So I'll remove those two screws, and remove the nameless part. And what we're left with is, this is called the yoke, and that controls the clutch here. And the yoke, again, it's just on a little post, and you can use Rodico on this, or you can just try and lever it out a bit. There's the yoke, and the clutch is inside there. And then we have this here, which is called the set-in lever, and that is what holds it in, holds the stem in, but also interacts with all the other parts to make the mechanism work. And this has a little, I can't get it into the right position. There. Since it has a little pin on the bottom of it, and it goes into that hole there. You have to oil this when you come to the service. So the keyless works is out, and we just need to remove the spring now. And first of all, before I undo the screw, I want to release the tension. And I'll just use a bit of pegwood, and I'm going to get behind it there a little bit. And again, I'm just trying to do this on camera, looking through the camera, sorry, and it's not my day today. There, okay, and that's held in by one screw, which for once is not incredibly tight. Okay, so that's the keyless all out. So now we just need to remove the calendar works and the main wheels for the hands. So first to come out is going to be this. I really haven't got it in the movement holder as well as I'd like this time. There, that's better. Sorry about that. And then I go and knock the part as well, just to make it worse. Okay, so that bit comes off first. To note here, this little horseshoe shape, it has one sort of button on the, or lug on the top, and it has two underneath. There we go. So it's important that you put the two facing down when you reassemble. Then we've got the intermediate wheel, which we'll get rid of. That's got two gears. Let's see if I can get that focusing. There we are. Sometimes these are made out of steel and sometimes made out of nylon. There don't seem to be any logic in which one you're going to get, because you can see them both in 6119s. Okay, this is the hour wheel, and that will just, excuse me, that will just lift off like so. Then we need to remove these two screws. Now it's important as well with these is that one looks big, that one looks small. The irony is the small one's got a big thread on it and the big one's got a small thread on it. So they have to go back in the right holes, otherwise you'll be standing there and wondering why it either won't thread in or it will just drop into the hole and won't tighten, depending on which one you're trying to do. So I'm sure there's a reason why they've done that. I'm just yet to find that reason out. So with the guard off, we are presented then with, this is the minute wheel. Okay, so we're just going to remove the minute wheel, and then you have this, I guess it's the drive wheel. This is what the clutch interacts with. So when you want to change the time, you pull out the crown, it pushes the clutch against this, and depending on which way you rotate the crown, will then rotate the minute wheel, which obviously then interacts with the hour wheel, which makes the hands turn in general. So that's how it works. So we remove that. That is almost the calendar side done. We have the one last thing, which is the cannon pinion, which is sitting there in the middle. Sometimes these are welded on, well, not literally welded on, but really stuck fast, and sometimes they're not too bad. You can buy a special tool for this. You can try and use your fingers, which I've done before, or you can try and use tweezers. I tend to try tweezers first. I just grab it round the shaft and I pull up. There we go, it's come off straight away. You want to pull up and come straight up. Don't try and move around from side to side, because you have what's called the fourth wheel, which is just here. So this wheel sticking out, or this pin sticking out the top, that's what you put your second hand on. So you don't want to bend that at all. So that is the calendar works done. Okay, we've got the jewel, but I won't, for this video, I won't be talking about the jewel. So we're going to flip it over now and we'll do the, what I call the motion side. So here we are on the motion side. And again, if you are doing this for the first time, or if you just want to have some good practice, I would always suggest on removing the balance first, because this is the most precious part of the watch. Damage that, you either need an expert to fix it, or you need plenty of time, because that little hairspring which is in there is very fragile, and that controls the whole timing of the watch. So if that's bent, it either won't run, or it'll run too fast, or it'll run really strangely. So it's a delicate piece, but it's nothing to be afraid of. It's held in by one screw. Okay, so all we're going to do is undo that first of all. Okay, so remove the screw, and for the balance, just want to get your tweezers underneath and gently lift out. It doesn't matter if it dangles too much. Okay, you can lie that flat if you like and flip it out. I always rest it then on its back. So if you put it on its back like that, it's going to get less damage. You can see the hairspring there, and if you really want to be good, you can put it into its jaw like that, so it's nice and safe. And again, I'll remove that, put that in the compartment where it's going to be nice and safe. So the next part is this top part here. This is, we call this the automatic framework. So this is how, or the mechanism, should we say, as to how the rotor, or the weight, winds the spring, so that it rotates around this. As you can see, the bearings are moving in there, and that interacts what they call the magic levers, or the pull lever, which moves this intermediate wheel here, which interacts with this ratchet wheel, which is on top of the barrel, and in the barrel is the mainspring. So it's just a transfer of power. So that motion of that rotor spinning makes these two levers move, which we'll show you. It moves that, and it will just keep cranking that around, which then moves that, and slowly but surely that is winding the mainspring. So that is, you know, it's very basic, yet such great bit of engineering at the same time. So to remove this, we have 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. Let's hope these aren't welded into position. No, that one's being nice to me, thank you. So I know you get a lot of shots of my hand when I'm doing that, but there is no other way to do it. Okay, and that's that one off. Removing this is straightforward, but you've just got to be a little bit careful. The very first time I did it, I actually broke the pull lever. To this day, I still don't know what I did wrong. What you want to try and do is just lever it somewhere. There we go. Very gently. It soon comes off. And if we flip that over, for a start, we can see an amazing amount of wear here. There's part of the pull lever. We'll take this apart later on. We'll take the 2 screws out, and you can see the whole. Actually, we'll do that now, shall we? So I'll lie that flat. Let's see if I can zoom in. We've probably lost a lot of resolution, so I apologise about that. And we've got 2 screws. Right, the screw's deciding to run away with me. There we are. Just visually inspecting that myself. So that's that part, that's fine. We can just put that away. And I'll just move the screws so I don't knock them. Okay, so what you can see here is the pull lever itself and the little intermediate wheel. It's on. Now these have got little hooks on them, for want of a better word, on each side, and this intermediate wheel has got teeth of its own. So let's just remove the guard. It's unusual to see it still stuck together like this. There we go. So hopefully you can see the hooks. They're quite dirty. Some of this could be a bit of rust, or it's more than likely dried oil. You know, it does a lot of work, this part, and it's jeweled as well, just to because it's a high friction area. And I don't know whether you'd be able to, yeah, you can just see the teeth on the side there, let's see. So that's what it's interacting with. Okay, so hopefully that's explained that a little bit better for you. And we'll bring in the movement again, and I just need to come out a little bit. So what we need to do before we do anything else now is, if there's any power in the mainspring, is to let down the power. There won't be on this watch because I haven't wore it, but for demonstration purposes, I'll show you what you want to do. So we have what's called the click here, this bar, it's going across, and you need to get hold of it with a pair of tweezers just on this end. Oh, sorry, what you want to do is put the screwdriver in. How can I do this where you guys can see it? So I'm going to put the screwdriver in and turn it just enough to grab hold. It's not going to focus, is it? So I'm grabbing hold of that, and I'm just going to let it then unwind itself. Now I wouldn't, you know, you can just sort of see what I did there. So this this really doesn't make for good view in this video. Yeah, there's no power in it anyway, but if it was full of power, you want to hold on to the screwdriver and just, you know, take some of the tension away so that you can feed down the power slowly, because the moment the click is out of place, that's just going to run down. So hopefully I've explained that well enough. If I haven't, ask me a question in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer. So we're going to take off the ratchet wheel off on the top. It's got the biggest screw out of the whole watch on that. It's quite easily identifiable, and then that bit will just lift off like so. We also need to remove the click, and that's held on by a screw. And for me, this is the most annoying part to fit back on these. On a lot of other Seikos, and if you watch some of my other videos, they just rest into a hole. So they obviously designed that out because they must have got fed up with, when they were building these, to get it all lined up and get that screw back in that hole. You know, even with my experience now, I still struggle with it sometimes. There we go. So there's the click. Right, now we need to remove what's called the train bridge, which is the whole top part here. It controls all the wheels. You can see all the jewels on this. You know, I do like the 6119. I have to say, it was the first movement I ever serviced. And this is held in again by 3 screws. They're quite large screws on this one, so they're never normally too difficult to get out. What I tend to forget is they've got longer threads on them. Yeah. Yeah, I think that one's out now. And the final one. Okay, now the screws are out. Again, it's just levering up gently, and I can already see that the barrel is stuck. There we go. So we're just going to take that off. So look at that. You can see there all that black. That's congealed and dried old oil, which will be slowing the barrel's efficiency down somewhat. And it's probably actually that, and maybe some other minute dirt, that is preventing this thing from working very well. I tend to find that I have to wear it for quite a while, or shake it for a hell of a long time before it actually gets any power into it, which is indicative of needing a service badly. Anyway, let's carry on. So we have on the top here, this is the 4th wheel, and you pull that out. It's very long. If you pull out gently and put it to one side. Then we have the 3rd wheel, not dissimilar. Just trying to see if you can see that, so you can see what a, you know, little gear on the bottom. The barrel itself. Again, for this video, I won't take out the mainspring on video. I've done a video on that separately as it is. So the barrel will come out, and usually the barrel is really dirty. So yeah, there we go. And again, you can see down here all the dirt. The next to come out, I want to remove the pallet bridge here, and we have 2 nice size screws. They're very shallow threaded, so they're not very long at all. And I've got a bit of slip going on my screwdriver, which doesn't help. Right, okay, so as much as every part of a watch is critical, you know, I mentioned earlier on that the balance is a critical part, but I also think that the pallet fork is, which is the bit underneath this. And sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes when you remove the bridge here, the fork stays in the bridge in its pivot jewel hole here, which is not always desirable. So you have to watch out for that. Fortunately, we're lucky this time. And then we just remove the fork like so, nice and straightforward. And then we're left with only a few more parts. So we have the escape wheel, which is just in there. There's the escape wheel, that does all the work. And then we have the center wheel and the center wheel bridge. So to release the center wheel, all we need to do is the last screw of the whole watch. It's actually important to note that this screw is flat. Some of the other screws are domed, and if you put a dome screw in here, it can, the 3rd wheel can actually hamper it, hence the reason they put a flat one in there. So it's always make sure that you either keep your screws separate, or that you make, you know, you're putting the right one certainly in that hole there. So we remove the bridge, we remove the, can't get a hold of it now typically, Rodico. There we are. Again, that could be just because it's got a bit of dirt, can't really see. There's the center wheel removed, and that, viewers, is the completed dismantle of a Seiko 6119C, one of my favourite movements. So there's not much else to say really, other than thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It means a lot to me, and if you want to see more, of course, click the like button, and definitely click the bell button next to it, because that will give you updates of when I've posted my latest videos. You can join my Facebook group, which is Retro and Vintage Watches and Restorations. Fabulous place. We're over 3,000 members now, growing strong. Lots and lots of experience in there, lots of watch lovers. Really great place to hang out, so you know, check that out by all means. I'll leave a link in the description to the Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description to my website, along with the tool page for if you want to buy any of the tools that I use. So other than that, thank you very much, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you.